In this video, we are going to look at the year 11 to 12 bridging pack for global systems and global governance. And the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the textbook that we're going to use for this module. For this course, we use the Cambridge University Press Geography A Level textbook. If I open it up, we can have a look at the globalization module. So chapter 7 on global systems and global governance covers globalization. We have a look at a case study of Walmart. We look at global systems, international trade, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, global governance, the global commons, and then we look at a critique of globalization too. So if we have a little look at the actual bridging pack itself, there are certain tasks that I want you to work. The first one is a very straightforward, what is globalization? So for that one, we're thinking about the spread of ideas and resources around the globe. Now, question 2 says that globalization is looking at a global market for products. And in contrast, we've got this word glocalization. And glocalization is when you take a global product and you try and tailor it to a local market. And this is a really good example of this here. This is a cartoon by the website itchyfeet.com. And it's really good. It links in nicely with the Change in Places module, actually, because what it's doing here, look, is it's looking at different strengths of coffee liked in different places. Now, obviously, if you're a coffee producer and you are producing a global brand, you are going to want to tailor that brand to the local tastes. That's where that one fits in. And it says here that we study both Walmart and Tata as global companies. So I've asked you to find out some facts about those two companies. Where are they located? What do they do? Who's their target market? That sort of thing. And then what I've also done here is I've given you 2 web pages, and these web pages show a world that's connected. So what I've asked you to do is to have a look at these and to tell me how they show the world being connected. And the first one is about underwater cables that link the whole world in terms of the internet, and the second one is about marine traffic, so the movement of container ships around the world, that sort of thing. Number 6 asks about a mega project that's threatening indigenous nomadic reindeer hunters. So I'm asking you to read about that one. And question 7 is looking at the China Bolton Road Initiative, which is really, really interesting strategy that the Chinese are taking in terms of globalization. Question 8 asks you about a trade war between the USA and China, and there's an article that you can read about it here. This is a power struggle, really. This is about China taking a greater percentage of world trade than they used to, and the USA trying to keep hold of the power that they've got in terms of trade. And the USA being the only superpower in the world at the moment is, of course, worried that China are going to rise up and threaten that monopoly that they've got over the world. So that's a really interesting case study to read about. And then I've also put that we will look at the coffee trade later in the module. So what I want you to do is I want you to find out how coffee is produced. I want to know what it looks like when it's grown. I want to know what it looks like when it's picked and where it's picked. And I want to know how it's then made into the final product. So maybe a little sequence of events there, a flow chart or something. And similarly with palm oil, what is it? You must have heard about palm oil. What is it used for? Where is it grown? What does it look like when it's grown? And what are the problems with it? Then 11 and 12 look at something called the global commons. Now the global commons are places that are outside the political reach of any country. So one example of a global common would be outer space, for example, because outer space is not governed by laws with any country. They have to be agreed upon by international laws. And as a result of that, they're quite tricky places, really, because you've got to get all the countries to agree. And if ever a country doesn't agree, well, then that could lead to all kinds of problems. And number 12 is talking about Antarctica as a global common. So Antarctica is not governed by one specific country. It's actually governed by the Antarctic Treaty, which is an organisation of lots of different countries who are all getting together and agreeing that this is a place that we need to protect and not overexploit. And so the question I'm asking you with 12 is to have a little look at Antarctica and work out how it's being governed, and have a look at the Antarctic Treaty. Maybe there's some really good diagrams to show how that works. And then number 13. Now, there are loads of books that cover globalisation, absolutely loads. Prisoners of Geography, now that gives you 10 maps, and each chapter starts with a map and it tells you things that you need to know about global politics. I had a student in a previous year 13 class that had read this book, and when we were doing this module, he knew loads. He could add to the lesson ever such a lot. B, Factfulness. This is a book by Hans Rosling, who I've already suggested to you is somebody really good to watch and listen to. So that's a good book. And the last one is The Leveling, What's Next After Globalization by Michael O'Sullivan. And again, it's a really interesting book looking at global forces and what the future might hold. And that's roughly an overview of the global systems and global governance module.